A source with knowledge tells CBS that a group of hostages was just handed over to the Red Cross. We'll be following that. We spoke earlier this morning with White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan before the Prime Minister and asked him whether the U.S. could confirm Americans are on the list to be released.
Well, Margaret, we do have reason to believe that Americans will be released today. At least one American will be released today. I cannot confirm who it will be or that it will absolutely happen, because until we see that American out of Gaza in safety and ultimately in the hands of their loved ones, we won't have full confirmation. And so we have been in close touch with the Israeli authorities, with Qatar, with Egypt, and we do have reason to believe that there will be an American release today. But let's wait and see what actually happens, because, of course, we are dealing with a terrorist group here, and we can't immediately trust. We have to verify.
Understood. But as part of that diplomacy, this is that delicate exchange, Palestinian prisoners, aid going in. Are all those other pieces on track today?
Well, there continues to be quite a bit of intensity around the logistics of the delivery of humanitarian assistance. That humanitarian assistance is flowing. It has been flowing for several hours this morning. The Israelis have indicated the list of Palestinian prisoners they're prepared to release, so that should be on track. We have every reason to believe that this will come together again today. It has for the last 2 days. But implementation of something as intricate and complicated as this is difficult.
I know this first phase of the deal is focused on women and children. There are 10 Americans unaccounted for at this point. Do you anticipate this truce will be extended and that all the Americans, including the men, will come home?
I have every confidence that ultimately all of the Americans and all of the individuals being held hostage will come home. We are determined not to rest until that happens. But whether or not this particular deal gets extended, that's really up to Hamas, because Israel has been very clear as part of the deal. It is prepared to continue the pause in fighting for every day that Hamas produces an additional 10 hostages. So the ball is in Hamas's court. If Hamas chooses on the 5th day and the 6th day and the 7th day to continue to produce hostages, to return them to their loved ones, to return them to safety, then Israel is prepared to continue the pause in the fighting. If Hamas decides not to do it, the responsibility will rest squarely on Hamas's shoulders.
Your deputy, John Feiner, was on Face the Nation last Sunday and told us Israel believes Hamas leaders are hiding in the south of Gaza. Combat operations are planned for that area, but he said they should be held off until civilians are accounted for in Israel's military planning. Is the U.S. satisfied with the assurances provided by Israel?
Well, really, this is about operations and not just about conversation. So what the United States is hoping to see, and frankly, what I believe Israel is hoping to see, is the conditions being set whereby any military action only takes place after civilians have been accounted for and have the opportunity to be in safety, to have access to humanitarian assistance, and to be out of the way of any military operation that is conducted. That's the conversation we're having with the Israelis right now. It's a constructive conversation, and the details of it will remain behind closed doors. But the basic notion that continuing military operations should learn lessons from the North to be applied in any further undertakings, this is something that we have been discussing with the Israelis at length.
President Biden was asked this past week about the call by some of his fellow Democrats to put conditions on military aid to Israel, and he said it was, quote, a worthwhile thought. What specific conditions are you considering putting on U.S. aid?
Well, Margaret, what the president actually said was it's a worthwhile thought, but the approach that I've taken, Joe Biden, have taken, has actually helped generate results. It has been high-level presidential diplomacy, deep, personal, and oftentimes
it wouldn't have gotten
private
us where we are
engagement
now.
That has led to a deep, personal, and private engagement that has led to a substantial and increasing amount of humanitarian assistance going into Gaza, thousands of foreign nationals, including American citizens, being able to depart safely from Gaza, a pause in the fighting for the first time since the conflict began, and a hostage deal that is bringing hostages home to their loved ones after 50 days. That has all been the result of what President Biden has described as the approach that he has taken in this conflict. And when he answered that question, he acknowledged the idea, but then he said in the same breath that the approach that he has taken is what has been generating results.
Are you saying that what the president was indicating was no, there won't be any restrictions?
No, we all saw what he said. He acknowledged the idea.
So there might be restrictions?
And then he said, but the approach I'm taking, Margaret, the president made clear in his comments that he thought the approach that he is taking is the approach that has generated the results that we have seen so far. And he is going to continue to engage in exactly that kind of diplomacy. In fact, he has a call set up for today with Prime Minister Netanyahu. And I think you will see the United States continue to do what we have been doing, and particularly President Biden continue to do what he is doing, because that is what is generating results. Okay,
because Senator Sanders has an op-ed in the New York Times making very specific demands in terms of restrictions on aid, saying there should be a freeze on settlement expansion in the West Bank, a commitment to a two-state solution. Are those reasonable things to require of the Israeli government before additional aid is handed over?
Nobody has been a stronger advocate for a two-state solution than President Joe Biden, who has been speaking about it.
Understood, and the current Israeli government
has done
not
so publicly as well as privately. And as far as the president is concerned, this is a sine qua non of a lasting peace in the region. We need to see a two-state solution, Israelis and Palestinians in equal measures of freedom and dignity, living side by side one another in peace.
Do you think this is a moment for that diplomacy, given what Prime Minister Netanyahu has said, given what some members of his government have said?
We believe that this is absolutely a moment for us to be working with everyone in the region, the Israeli government, the Palestinians, the Arab countries, our European partners, others, towards a two-state solution. And President Biden laid that out in detail in an op-ed that he wrote in the Washington Post not long ago. So the answer to your question is yes, we do think this is a moment for that kind of diplomacy.
Jake Sullivan, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.